Here's the first part of your story in about 800 words, using simple Korean names and basic English in third-person style. The massive alien ship appeared suddenly in Earth's orbit on a quiet Tuesday morning in May 2137. Governments worldwide scrambled to respond as smaller vessels broke away from the mothership and positioned themselves above major cities. Humanity held its collective breath, wondering if this was the end. It wasn't. "We come in peace," announced the aliens in perfect English through every electronic device on the planet. "We are the Galactic Coalition, and we wish to welcome humanity to the interstellar community." After decades of searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, humans were overjoyed to discover they weren't alone. World leaders quickly organized a global welcome committee, and within days the first alien representatives set foot on Earth soil in a ceremony broadcast to billions. The aliens looked almost human, tall and slender with pale blue skin and large eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Their leader introduced himself as Admiral Han, military commander of the coalition forces. His deputy, a female alien named Ju, stood silently at his side, studying the humans with curious eyes. "Your civilization has achieved much in a short time," Admiral Han told the assembled world leaders. "We offer friendship and technological exchange that will benefit us all." The offer seemed too good to be true. The aliens promised clean energy, medical advances, and faster-than-light travel technology. All they asked in return was access to Earth's cultural archives and permission to establish diplomatic outposts around the planet. Most humans welcomed the aliens with open arms. A few voices urged caution, but they were quickly dismissed as paranoid. The world was too excited about the prospect of joining an interstellar community to listen to warnings. Captain Jin of the Earth Defense Force was one of those cautious voices. A decorated naval officer reassigned to the newly formed Space Division, she had studied the Coalition's ships with growing concern. "Their technology is at least 3 centuries ahead of ours," she reported to General Park during a private meeting at EDF headquarters in Seoul. "Yet they're willing to share it freely. That doesn't make sense." General Park nodded slowly. "I've had the same thought. What have you observed about their military capabilities?" "That's just it, sir," Jin replied, pulling up images on her tablet. "They claim these are peaceful vessels, but I've identified what appear to be weapon ports. They're well disguised, but they're there." 2 months after first contact, Jin was invited to observe a coalition military demonstration. Admiral Han showcased their defensive capabilities, explaining how their energy shields could deflect asteroids and space debris. "Impressive," Jin commented. "What about your offensive capabilities?" Admiral Han smiled thinly. "We have little need for weapons. The coalition has been at peace for centuries." Later that day, Jin overheard a conversation between Admiral Han and Ju as they walked ahead of her down a corridor. They spoke in their native language, unaware that Jin had been studying it in secret. "These humans are even more primitive than our report suggested," Han said dismissively. "Their military strategy is based on oceanic warfare. Can you imagine anything more absurd?" Ju laughed. "They think in 2 dimensions when space requires 3. Their ships are built to float on water, not navigate the void. Their obsession with naval tactics will make them easy to control when the time comes," Han added. "They'll never see our real approach coming." Jin kept her face neutral as she followed them, but her heart raced. That night she compiled all her observations and suspicions into a report and sent it to General Park with urgent classification. The general called an emergency meeting with Earth's military leaders. "Captain Jin has uncovered disturbing information," he explained, then played recordings of alien conversations discussing humans as resources and labor potential. "They're planning something," Jin told the grim-faced officers. "Their technology sharing program has given us everything except defensive capabilities. They're keeping us vulnerable while appearing generous." Some military leaders remained skeptical, but enough were convinced to quietly begin preparations. Under the guise of international cooperation projects, they started developing weapons that might work against alien technology. Jin was assigned to lead Project Thunderstorm, A secret initiative to design ships that could potentially stand against coalition vessels. Working with engineers from naval powers around the world, she incorporated traditional maritime battle strategies that the aliens had dismissed as primitive. They think our naval experience is worthless in space, Jin told her team. That's exactly why it might work. They expect us to fight like them, but we'll fight like us. 6 months after the aliens arrived, Earth continued its public display of gratitude and cooperation. Behind closed doors, however, Captain Jin and her team worked frantically to prepare for what they increasingly believed was coming. Betrayal on a planetary scale. They were right. The betrayal came without warning on a cold December morning. Exactly 6 months after the aliens' arrival, Captain Jin had just arrived at her underground office when the alarm sounded. She rushed to the command center where chaos had erupted. "Multiple energy signatures detected in orbit," shouted a young lieutenant, his face pale in the glow of emergency lights. "Coalition ships are powering up unknown weapons systems." General Park burst through the doors. "Status report." "All our satellites are going dark, sir," reported Communications Officer Mina. "We've lost contact with the International Space Station and our lunar outpost." On the main screen, they watched as the once friendly coalition vessels transformed. Hidden panels slid open to reveal massive energy weapons that pulsed with blue light. Earth's primitive defense satellites were the first targets, disappearing in silent flashes. "They're taking out our eyes first," Jin said grimly. "Just as I feared." Admiral Han's face appeared on all communication channels worldwide. His friendly demeanor had vanished, replaced by cold efficiency. "People of Earth," he announced, "your planet is now under the protection and governance of the Galactic Coalition. Your cooperation will ensure minimal casualties. Resistance is not advised." Within hours, coalition landing craft breached Earth's atmosphere. They targeted military installations first, using precision energy weapons that left civilian infrastructure intact, but military capabilities in ruins. "They want our resources and labor, not a wasteland," Jin explained during an emergency meeting in the bunker beneath Seoul. "That's our only advantage." Cities around the world fell quickly. The aliens deployed a technology that neutralized conventional weapons. Guns simply stopped firing, tanks wouldn't move, and fighter jets lost power mid-flight. Humanity's military might crumbled in less than a day. General Park received reports of alien forces establishing processing centers in major cities. "They're cataloging humans by skills and abilities," he told Jin. "Engineers, scientists, and builders are being separated from the general population." Jin nodded. "They need us to work for them." 3 days into the invasion, Jin received summons to meet with General Park in a secret location. She traveled through abandoned subway tunnels, avoiding coalition patrols. The meeting place was an old nuclear shelter 20 stories underground. Inside, she found not just General Park, but leaders from military forces worldwide. Americans, Russians, Chinese, British, all traditional rivals now united by common threat. "Captain Jin," General Park said, "your warnings were correct, but we had too little time to prepare. Now we need your expertise more than ever." An American, Admiral, stepped forward. "You predicted their attack pattern almost exactly. How?" "I studied their dismissal of our naval tactics," Jin explained. "They think three-dimensionally, but follow rigid patterns. They laughed at our ocean-based strategies, which means they've never considered how they might apply to space." The Russian general nodded. "So what do we do now?" General Park activated a holographic display showing technical schematics. "This is Project Thunderstorm, Captain Jin's design for ships that might stand against coalition vessels. We've been building components in secret facilities worldwide, but we need time to assemble them," Jin added, "and we need a safe location beyond Earth." The Chinese general pointed to the asteroid belt on a map of the solar system. "We have a mining operation there that might have escaped coalition notice." Jin studied the location. "Perfect. But how do we get there?" "We have one prototype ship," General Park revealed. "It's small, untested, and hidden in an abandoned mine shaft in North Korea. It might get a small team to the asteroid belt." The room fell silent as everyone understood what this meant. a desperate mission with little chance of success. "I'll go," Jin said without hesitation. "I designed the ships. I should build them." General Park nodded. "Select a small team. You leave tonight." As dawn broke the next morning, Coalition forces detected an unusual energy signature from the Korean peninsula. A small vessel barely larger than a shuttle burst from a mountainside and accelerated toward space at impossible speed. Admiral Han watched the trajectory with narrowed eyes. "Interesting. They've adapted some of our technology already." "Should we pursue?" asked Han, laughed dismissively. "Let them run. One small ship is no threat to us. They probably seek refuge on Mars or one of Jupiter's moons. We'll find them eventually." But the small ship didn't head toward Mars or Jupiter. Instead, it made a series of erratic jumps using Earth's moon for a gravitational slingshot before disappearing from Coalition sensors. Aboard the ship, Captain Jin looked back at the blue planet now under alien control. "They think they've won," she told her team of engineers and pilots. "They're wrong. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning." 1 year had passed since Earth fell to the Coalition. From their hidden base in the asteroid belt, Captain Jin, now Admiral Jin, stood on the bridge of the first completed warship. They had named it Thunder, and it looked unlike anything humans or aliens had built before. "Systems check complete," reported Chief Engineer Min, his face showing exhaustion but pride. "All 3 ships are ready." Admiral Jin nodded. Thunder, Lightning, and Storm. 3 vessels built from stolen Coalition technology combined with human ingenuity. For 12 months, the small team of survivors had worked tirelessly, constructing their ships in the hollowed-out asteroid they now called Haven. "The Coalition still doesn't know we're here," said Commander Su, Jin's second-in-command. "There, patrols never reach this far. They think humanity is defeated." Jin smiled. "That's their first mistake." The ships they had built looked strange, a hybrid of naval submarine design and alien technology. While Coalition vessels were elegant and symmetrical, these human ships were irregular, with unexpected angles and reinforced sections. "They won't understand what they're seeing," Min explained during the final briefing. "We've designed these ships based on principles the aliens dismissed, naval warfare concepts from Earth's oceans. The most revolutionary aspect was the carrier system. Each large ship contained 12 smaller fighter craft that could launch rapidly through specialized bays. Coalition forces had never used such a system, considering small vessels inefficient in space combat. The aliens fight at long range with energy weapons," Jin told her pilots. "They've never needed point defense systems because no species has ever attempted close-quarters combat in space. This was humanity's advantage, thinking differently." Admiral Jin received regular encrypted messages from the resistance on Earth. General Park reported that the aliens had settled into predictable patterns, becoming complacent in their dominance. They had no idea what was coming. "Their fleet is concentrated around Earth, Mars, and Jupiter's moons," Commander Su noted as they studied Coalition deployment maps. "Their weakest point is Saturn's moon Titan, where they've established a fuel processing facility." Jin made her decision. "Then Titan will be our first target." The plan was daring. Some called it insane. They would use concepts from submarine warfare, approaching silently through Saturn's rings, using the ice particles to mask their energy signatures. Then, when in position, they would launch fighter squadrons in a coordinated attack pattern, based on ancient naval wolfpack tactics. The night before the mission, Admiral Jin walked through Haven's small memorial garden. They had lost 17 people during the escape from Earth and the dangerous construction process. Each name was carved into a stone wall, a reminder of the cost of resistance. "We won't let you down," she whispered to the names. At 0600 hours, the 3 ships departed Haven. They traveled separately, using minimal power to avoid detection, converging near Saturn 30 hours later. The ringed planet provided perfect cover as they made final preparations. "Coalition base on Titan shows normal activity," reported Sensors Officer Yu. 12 ships in orbit, minimal alert status. Jin nodded. Launch fighters on my mark. Remember your training. They'll expect direct approaches, give them the unexpected. The smaller craft deployed silently, using Saturn's rings as cover until the last possible moment. When they finally accelerated toward Titan, the coalition response was slow and confused. Their communications indicate surprise. You translated from intercepted messages. They're asking each other what these small vessels are. The fighter squadrons executed their attack pattern, a three-dimensional version of tactics used by torpedo boats during Earth's Second World War. They attacked from multiple vectors simultaneously, overwhelming the aliens' targeting systems. Impact, shouted Commander Sue as the first coalition ship erupted in silent flame. Direct hit on their command vessel. Within 20 minutes, the battle was over. The coalition had lost 7 ships, while the humans lost only 3 fighters. The Titan facility was disabled, its communication array destroyed. We've done it, Min whispered in disbelief. We actually beat them. This is just the beginning, Jin replied, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Send the message to Earth. Operation Typhoon is successful. Tell them humanity fights back. Across the solar system, Admiral Han received the report with shock and fury. Impossible, he shouted, throwing a datapad across his command center. Who attacked Titan? When the surveillance images finally arrived, he stared in disbelief at the strange-looking vessels. These are human ships? But they're using tactics we've never seen before. How? Ju studied the footage carefully. They're applying ocean warfare principles to space combat. We dismiss those tactics as primitive. Admiral Han's face darkened. Find them. Destroy them. This resistance ends now. But as coalition forces scrambled to respond, Admiral Jin was already planning her next attack. The aliens had laughed at human tactics. Now they would learn just how deadly those tactics could be. News of the successful attack on Titan spread through Earth's resistance like wildfire. Hidden radio transmissions carried the message from city to city. Humans had fought back and won. The coalition forces, so confident in their superiority, found themselves facing something they never expected, an enemy that refused to stay defeated. Admiral Han summoned his commanders to an emergency meeting aboard his flagship orbiting Earth. His blue skin had darkened with fury as he reviewed the attack footage again. How did primitive vessels destroy 7 of our ships? He demanded. Our technology is centuries ahead of theirs. Commander Ju studied the battle data carefully. They approached using Saturn's rings as cover, like ocean predators using underwater terrain. Then they attacked in patterns we've never seen before. These are naval tactics, explained the coalition's human expert, a scientist who had helped the aliens understand Earth cultures. Specifically, wolfpack maneuvers adapted from submarine warfare. They're fighting in 3 dimensions using strategies developed for water. Admiral Han slammed his fist on the table. Adapt our defense systems. I want those human ships found and destroyed. But the coalition forces struggled to change their approach. For thousands of years, their battles had followed established patterns. Long-range energy weapon exchanges between large capital ships. Their entire military doctrine, training, and ship design centered around these principles. Meanwhile, Admiral Jin wasted no time. 2 weeks after the Titan victory, human ships struck again, this time hitting a coalition supply depot near Jupiter. Once again, they used unexpected tactics, approaching from the direction of the sun to blind coalition sensors. They're adapting naval concepts we never considered valid for space combat, Admiral Han admitted grudgingly during a strategy session. Their ships move like ocean predators, not proper space vessels. Most shocking to the aliens was the human use of fighter craft. Coalition military doctrine had long ago determined that small vessels were inefficient in space battles. Yet these tiny human ships launched from larger carrier vessels proved devastatingly effective against coalition vessels that lacked point defense systems. Their entire attack doctrine relies on getting close, Ju realized. Our ships are designed for long-range combat. We have no defense against enemies that manage to reach our perimeter. As coalition forces scrambled to retrofit their vessels with short-range weapons, Admiral Jin prepared her boldest move yet. Intelligence from Earth indicated that Admiral Han's flagship contained the Coalition's Central Combat Database, the EIG, key to all their military technology. If we capture that data, we can build more ships, Jin explained to her officers. We need to board their flagship. The idea seemed impossible. Board an alien vessel? Yet Jin had been studying Coalition ship designs for months. She had identified access points and developed specialized boarding equipment. They've never been boarded before, she told her strike team. The concept doesn't exist in their military doctrine. They'll have no protocols for it. The attack came during a diplomatic meeting between Coalition commanders. Using a captured Coalition shuttle and stolen identification codes, a small team led by Jin herself approached the flagship undetected. They attached to an external maintenance port and cut their way inside. The aliens were completely unprepared for enemies inside their ship. Jin's team fought their way to the central computer core using weapons designed to work within the alien environment. Within 30 minutes, they had downloaded the entire combat database and freed 300 human prisoners being kept for study. Fall back, Jin ordered, as Coalition forces finally organized a response. We have what we came for. The human ships escaped, leaving confusion and shock behind. For the first time, Admiral Han felt something new: fear. These humans didn't fight according to any rules he understood. Back at Haven, Engineer Min worked day and night with his team to integrate the stolen data into human ship designs. Within a month, they had produced plans for 20 new vessels. More importantly, resistance cells on Earth now had the technical specifications they needed to sabotage Coalition technology from within. Small acts of defiance grew into coordinated attacks as humanity's resistance gained momentum. Admiral Han's leadership began to falter, as other Coalition species questioned his handling of the human problem. What had begun as a simple conquest was becoming a costly war of attrition. These humans don't know when they're beaten, Han complained during a Coalition council meeting. They keep using these primitive, unpredictable tactics. The Coalition counselor from the oldest species leaned forward. Perhaps, she suggested quietly, that is precisely why they are winning. The final battle for Earth began at dawn on a spring day, exactly 2 years after the Coalition's invasion. Admiral Jin stood on the Bridge of Thunder, now the flagship of humanity's fleet of 47 vessels. They had gathered in the shadow of Mars, hidden from Coalition sensors by a dust storm that covered half the red planet. All ships report. Ready, Admiral, Commander Sue announced, her voice steady despite the tension. Jin nodded. Send the signal to Earth resistance. Operation Freedom begins now. Across Earth, resistance cells activated sleeper agents within Coalition facilities. Communication arrays suddenly failed. Defense systems went offline. The carefully planted sabotage, months in preparation, created chaos among the occupying forces. In orbit, Admiral Han received frantic reports from ground bases. What is happening? He demanded. But before anyone could answer, alarms blared throughout his flagship. Multiple ship signatures detected, shouted a sensor operator. They're appearing everywhere. The human fleet had split into smaller attack groups approaching Earth from 12 different vectors. Using Jupiter and Saturn's gravitational fields, they had accelerated to speeds the Coalition thought impossible for such vessels. The attack pattern resembled an ancient naval strategy called crossing the T, but executed in 3 dimensions. They can't all be real ships, Han insisted. Some must be decoys. Ju studied her readouts. Our sensors can't tell the difference. They've adapted our technology to create false signatures. Another tactic from Earth's naval history: dummy ships used to confuse enemy fleets. While Coalition forces struggled to identify real targets, the human fighters struck with precision. Direct. Hit on primary defense station, reported Commander Sue as the orbital platform protecting Han's flagship erupted in flame. Meanwhile, small teams of resistance fighters launched from Earth's surface in crude but effective spacecraft. They targeted the Coalition's troop transports, creating even more confusion. Admiral Han watched in disbelief as his carefully organized defense crumbled. This is impossible. They're fighting with no coherent pattern. But there was a pattern, just not one the Coalition understood. Admiral Jin had studied Earth's naval battles for years. She combined strategies from different eras and cultures. Greek triremes circling larger Persian ships, English vessels breaking Spanish formation with faster, more maneuverable crafts, submarine wolf packs attacking convoys. All ships, execute. Trafalgar maneuver, Jin ordered, invoking an ancient battle where a smaller fleet had defeated a larger one through bold, unconventional tactics. Human vessels suddenly broke their approach and drove straight through the coalition formation, firing at close range where the aliens' sophisticated targeting systems became a disadvantage rather than an asset. "They're too close, weapons can't track," shouted Ju as a human fighter screamed past their viewport, launching projectiles that damaged their engine section. 6 hours into the battle, Admiral Han's flagship stood alone, surrounded by human vessels. Half the coalition fleet had been destroyed. The rest had retreated or been captured. "Your forces have been defeated, Admiral Han." Jin's voice came through on all channels. "Surrender now." Han stared at the human ship surrounding him. How had it come to this? How had these primitives with their water-based tactics defeated the mighty coalition? "I surrender," he finally replied, his voice hollow. The formal surrender ceremony took place 3 days later in the same plaza where the aliens had first been welcomed to Earth. Admiral Jin, now representing humanity, faced Admiral Han across a simple table. "You could destroy us all," Han said quietly. "Why offer terms?" "Because we're not like you," Jin replied. "We don't seek domination, we seek partnership." The terms were firm but fair. Coalition forces would withdraw from Earth. Technology would be shared equally. A new galactic Concord would replace the coalition with all species having equal representation. "You never understood us," Jin explained as Han signed the agreement. "You saw our naval traditions as primitive. You laughed at tactics developed for water being used in space. But those traditions taught us to adapt, to think differently, to use our environment." Han nodded slowly. "We have been spacefaring for 10,000 years. Perhaps we grew arrogant, too set in our ways." 6 months later, Admiral Jin represented Earth at the first meeting of the Galactic Concord. Representatives from 37 species gathered to establish new principles of cooperation. Earth's unique perspective, combining old wisdom with new innovation, became highly valued. "The humans remind us of something we had forgotten," said the eldest council member during the opening ceremony. "There are many paths to knowledge, many ways to see the universe." As Jin looked out at the assembled delegates, she thought about how far they had come. From near extinction to respected equals in just 3 years. "They laughed at our tactics," she whispered to herself with a small smile, "until they faced our ships and lost the war. But in winning, humanity had gained more than freedom. They had gained a place among the stars and brought new thinking to a galactic community that had grown stagnant." The defeat of the coalition marked not just the liberation of Earth, but the beginning of a new era for all species.